with NJTPA, and we also have Cassidey Boulan of DVRPC, and she's more in our crossover region in South Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania. And they'll all be speaking about project demonstrations and the process of how we get to that point. So we will be doing some taking questions. So I'm going to encourage and remind everybody to please keep your microphone muted through the presentation, unless of course you're presenting. And if you can put your questions in the chat, we're going to be monitoring the chat and try to find the themes, because we have a lot of people. We likely won't be able to address every individual question, but if we could find a theme in the questions and address them that way to the panel, I think that would work out best. And we might even be able to get some actual raise your hand and share your question verbally at the end. So I guess I'd like to just start off with Jason. Jason, let me know if you need to share your screen. And Johan, if you could keep an eye on admitting folks as they come in, I'd appreciate it. But Jason, you are the president and council in Metuchen, and I know you have had some great experience with the effects of project demonstrations that start off with a little bit of physical infrastructure change that lead to more. Take it away, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. And I've been looking at this participant list, and I'm seeing lots of familiar names. So good to see everybody again that I've worked with or had the pleasure of interacting with before. So yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to show some photos and talk through a little bit of what we've done and been able to get done in Metuchen. So I just got a quick slideshow here. Right. So yeah, so some of the examples that we've had in Metuchen as related to demonstration projects. The first one that I really think about is our daylighting that we've been able to get done. We have we're a small town, but we have a fairly dense downtown area with a lot of pedestrian activity for our businesses in that area. And we have a few intersections where, cars come and they park basically illegally at the corners. So that was something that we saw a while ago. And this, by the way, this took no time to find. I dropped a pin on Google Maps and this immediately popped up of a UPS truck parking exactly where we don't want them to be parking. So this is the type of thing we were trying to, get away from. Obviously, I don't need to explain to this group of people, but the sight lines here are being blocked. It's hard for someone making a turn to see a pedestrian who may be getting into the crossing. It's hard for pedestrians to see the cars coming. So this is something that we were trying to find solutions to. This is the simplest solution, and it was really fast and quick that we were able to come up with, was to actually put up some bollards. So how did we do it? We looked at a number of other towns. This is something that Hoboken and Jersey City had done a lot of. New York City has done this type of thing. So being able to show that this worked in other areas is a good way to convince the administration of being able to do something quick like this. Having someone that can be your advocate in town, someone like a council person, in this case it was me, being that person to really push the issue and explain the problems and explain the solution. And daylighting is a really great example of something you could do as a really quick first step, because it's very simple and it's very cheap. It's much easier for the administration to say no to these things, but if you're able to show that it's very cost effective and it's not going to take too much time and resources, it's much more likely to get done. So something like this, where a couple of bollards, your DPW likely already has cones, they likely already have bollards, and if they don't, it's really easy to obtain. In fact, you're going to hear a little bit later from the NJTPA about the lending library that makes that even easier to get done. And the other thing is that with daylighting is that parking is already illegal in this area. So you don't need a new ordinance. You don't need to make the PD issue a temporary no parking ban. This is something that should already be happening. So the idea of putting up these, in our case, bollards, was very easy to get done. It wasn't perfect though. People continued. They were just bollards after all. So these bollards end up getting moved. Cars and trucks continue to park there. But we had showed the administration and the police department that this works. So they were very much willing to iterate on this concept. And one of the things we saw when we had the cones up was that bicyclists actually started parking in this area. So our second version of this actually included that ability to have bicycles parking. So now this is no longer cheap, right? We're no longer in the cheap area. Now we're actually investing some money, but the administration was very much willing to invest that money because they saw how it worked. So we got better bollards put up. We had the curb stops. We invested in some paint, some nice flower pots, and then eventually also a bike rack that we installed directly in the street. So this is great. This got used quite a bit. And our most recent iteration, we've gone to a better painting in the roadway. We found that in the previous version, it was still a little bit hard to understand what this area was about. So really thick hashed yellow markings are now there. And then also we've upgraded our planters. So the planters we had were sort of short and they continued to get hit because they were hard to see. So now we have these really thick, large, heavy planters that we've installed there. But even those have problems too. So you're always going to be iterating. You're always going to have things that you need to get better at. And in fact, this is really leading into what's coming in 2024 with the Main Street Safety Grant that we've been working on for a number of years. We have a number of infrastructure improvements coming that are more permanent, including green infrastructure, bump outs, we're adding crossings, and we're really excited to have this done on our Main Street in 2024. Another example of what we've done here in Metuchen is really kind of rethink the way we think about our right-of-way. This is from 2013. One of our local advocacy groups did a parking day. We've done a parklet within our downtown. And what that really led us to was, we were more comfortable with this idea of using our space in more creative ways. So by the time that COVID came around, we had a little bit of experience with this, and COVID really turned a lot of towns into tactical urbanists, and Metuchen had a little bit of experience doing that. So it was not a crazy idea when we said, well, let's take our street, shut it down, and open it up to outdoor dining. It wasn't a crazy idea when we said, we need to take spots for curbside pickup. All the businesses are shut down. We need to have a way for the people to get there and to pick up food and to drop off things. So literally the very first day that businesses shut down, we very, very quickly, you could see this is a shop small lawn sign that we took. We printed up some images on an inkjet printer. We taped it all together. We threw up these signs downtown to really make some spaces for people to quickly come pick up and drop off food and items. We iterated on that. We made much better signs. We bagged the meters. We had a number of these installed throughout the downtown. And now, even post-COVID, this is still something that's around. Curbside pickup is still being used quite often. So we've actually made that a permanent thing in our downtown. We now have 8 to 10 meters that we've bagged permanently with 15-minute free parking spots. And it's really been really easy and fast and cheap, like I was mentioning before, a way to quickly make changes and rethink the way you use your space. Another third example, now these next two are a little bit, they're not the cheap versions, but they were able to get done through funding through grants and other outside funding opportunities, as well as working with other organizations in your downtown. So this is what we refer to as Conversation Corner, which was installed last year. What we did is we worked with our special improvement district, the Metuchen Downtown Alliance, and we were able to seek and receive funding from AARP for a grant to take these a couple of surface parking lot spots and turn them into a place for people. In this area of our downtown, we're really missing seating opportunities. It's also right near our senior center. So we wanted to add some seating opportunities. We want to have a chance to add some additional beautification in the way of flower pots, as well as a beautiful mosaic table. So we were able to take those 2 parking spots at the corner. Using the AIRP money and working with the MDA, we had seating installed, flower pots, and we worked with the mosaic artist to put together this nice table.
Jason, this all looks fantastic. Are you seeing greater support with all of your efforts?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we're seeing. As you show, these things working in action, I find that people are much more willing and to accommodate the idea of when you have these additional thoughts about how you could take space and reuse space. It becomes a sort of self-fulfilling by being able to show success. And in fact, that the next and final thing is this Peterson Park, which we've been working on. So just a little bit of background, Thomas Mundy Peterson was the first African-American to vote under the 15th Amendment, and he was born in Metuchen and lived in Perth Amboy. Metuchen, obviously a hugely historic figure for the town, but we didn't really have anything to commemorate this man. So that's something we've been looking for. And we have this, was a drive-through, a bank drive-through right in the center of our downtown, right in the middle of our downtown. And the bank, which is Manasquan Bank, built a new building for themselves and sort of consolidated in a separate section of our downtown. So we were able to work with them to actually donate this space to the town. And it's going to be the future home of our Thomas Mundy Peterson Park. Once we received that donation, we immediately added tables and chairs. We put up some lights. We did some really quick landscaping. Again, easy, cheap, fast. And by the time Small Business Saturday rolled around, we had really activated this space. We had a beer truck that day that was selling beer and hot cider. Really something that's going to be really special for the community. And we have big plans for a more permanent version of that in the future coming up. So as a sort of what's worked for me is these, really be persistent. You want to make sure you're going to hear no often, but if you continue to be persistent and show that these changes are good, you're going to have more success. If you need to start small, start small. You may want to have a mile-long pop-up bike lane, but if it has to be a block, then it has to be a block. Do a block. Show that it works. Get something rolling. Show your administration that these things are actually possible. Like I said a couple times, make things cheaper and easier to implement. It's going to make it hard to say no, and make sure you're iterating. Once you've proven how to do something, what's the next step? How do you make it even better? And finally, just sort of find who your advocate's going to be. It could be a downtown organization, local businesses, your TMA. In my case, it's Keep Middlesex Moving. It could be Easy Ride. And find a council person or someone else that can be your advocate to really help you work with the administration. And if you can't find that person, maybe it's you, right? So I started out, I was an advocate in my town for work, and this is me at our parking day before I was on the council. So I'm not saying that you have to run for office and get elected twice and work hard for 6 years and earn, but it worked for me. So that's
That's fantastic. And Jason, thank you, because that's a perfect segue to Nancy Facey-Blackwood in Red Bank, because Nancy had a similar kind of start, and now she's on town council. So Nancy.
Hi, everybody. I see some familiar faces here too. I see Leanne in particular. I was a member of the Green Team and then Environmental Commission. So back in 2018, I was a Green Team member and helping the town update their Sustainable Jersey actions for certification. And we noticed that there were a lot of actions we could take related to bicycle and pedestrian safety. And we also noticed this grant. Red Bank has always had a few bicycle and pedestrian advocates over the years, and they would drop into Green Team meetings and we would hear them out. But when we saw the opportunity for a technical assistance for tactical urbanism project, we reached out. We had a relatively new administrator who was gung-ho for trying anything. And so we got started. So it wasn't hard to get the project started per se, once we got the grant. And I will share my screen in a little bit once I remember how to do this. Sorry about that. What's this? I don't know where it went, but I will find it. Okay, well, I guess I'll have to keep talking through it, because I can't seem to find the app or the item that comes up. But basically what happened is We got awarded for 2 projects. One is an intersection improvement, and the other option was for a public outreach plaza. And we had, through Sustainable Jersey, they were the, they assisted us in helping us identify some intersections. We came up with a list of 9. They said, no, come back with 3. So we came back with 3. And then one day we took a walk around town and we selected one.
Excuse me,
And
Nancy, can you
Yep.
just take a look, see if that green button is available to you?
okay, it looks like it's available, but it's not bringing up what I need to share.
I see,
Oops.
okay.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to roll with it. See, now I lost my Zoom. Okay, usually I'm much better at this. So I'm a little bit surprised I'm having so much trouble.
We still see you.
You still see me, that's good. And the only thing it's allowing me to share is the desktop. So I'm not sure what's happening.
Hmm.
But so a little bit about Red Bank. We're a 2.2 square mile, 13,000 people. And we have a lot of draw because we have theaters, retail, restaurants, arts, racially and economically diverse community. We're welcoming and inclusive. But going back to our team, we had NJTPA, Voorhees Transportation Center at Rutgers, our administrator, DPU, planning department, police department, Sustainable Jersey. We had our green team, and we had our bike and pedestrian advocates, as well as our business centers. So what we chose to do, we selected a site that had a busy offset intersection. And if you know streets, I guess when they built them to control traffic, they created these offset intersections where cars have to zigzag to get across. We had many trucks passing through, 3 pedestrian crosswalks, 2 very active community organizations in the way. Lunch Break and the Boys and Girls Club were located there, and heavy bicycle traffic. And what happened, though, is Voorhees Transportation Center came up with a design to help us. Yes, thank you. That helps. And with the design, we came up with a plan, and we selected the intersection. And winter came, so we couldn't do anything until spring. But then after the spring, we came up with the design. So in the draft that was sent to us, the intersection was highlighted with green with a mural, and our DPW took that literally. So they painted the intersection green, and we put a sun in there because that's the most neutral thing you can do to create a positive visible distraction. So we did that. And the feedback that we had gotten, and we put up temporary bollards, as well as had a survey. James Sinclair and Leanne were out there taking the surveys, and I really appreciate their efforts. And what we had was a survey that was done, and we got feedback from the residents, what they would like to see, what changes should we make. And it was overwhelmingly a positive feedback. So we were really, pleased that we had that. We also had in our report from Voorhees Transportation Center, as you see, here's the report with recommendations. And so far, we're still in the process of putting those recommendations in. Unfortunately, because the intersection was painted with temporary paint, because it's temporary, unfortunately, that is we had to get rid of that, but we are in the process. We have permanent bollards, and we repaint the crosswalks. And last year we received a grant to upgrade that intersection. So we'll be doing more, like putting a flashing beacon to help people safely cross, as well as doing more daylighting as needed. The second part of the project that was designed for us was the White Street Plaza, which is a narrow intersection going in. And we really wanted to do it, but at the last minute, the police said, no, we can't do it. So, we had the design, and we said, okay, well, we'll put it in our back pocket. This was in 2019. 2020, we had the pandemic, businesses were suffering, and that's where Red Bank's Broadwalk was born. And with Broadwalk, we took the design that was made for the White Street Plaza, and we created, we closed off 2 blocks essentially, and closed it off to pedestrian traffic. It was done by bollards and, very cheaply, and it allowed the businesses to serve residents outside. And it was such a success, and with the improvements to the restaurants, their businesses did well. In addition to the businesses, the adjacent businesses that were not restaurants were doing well because they're getting a lot of foot traffic, and it has become a destination. And so every year we've been improving upon it. I think about a year and a half ago, we put in retractable bollards, permanent bollards that will go up and down. So, we're not dragging out the concrete barriers and everything else. We just put them up. We improved it. Next iteration was coverage for the bollards that are higher, so they're more visible. There are now activities in the Broadwalk that are run by River Center, and everyone is really loving it. Some of the challenges that we have every year is people complain that, because it is in the downtown area, people say that traffic is a problem, but we're not really seeing that. We had a whole community of OEM residents, businesses come with the design of Broadwalk, and we found a way to make it work. So now, effective this year, Broadwalk will be permanent by ordinance. So this way businesses can prepare for the summer outdoor season. And Red Bank was a town that was very dead in the summer because everybody went to the beaches. But now we have Broadwalk, it has come alive. So we've created another season for businesses to do well. I really wish I had my pictures to show, but I will send them to Paul, and he'll be able to take care of this. Now, what has also happened in Red Bank is that since they saw that we did the tactical urbanism project where we did the intersection, we have Broadwalk. We had an AARP grant where we created a destination Red Bank site, and with QR codes and placards where people can, scan the QR code, see what's happening locally around town, has walking routes and everything. And we also have a very small parklet. People on the Environmental Commission like to call it the horse jail, because we had one design and then it turned into, something a little bit different. But every year we do something better. Red Bank recently has had an event called Porch Fest, where we have numerous residents open up their porches to bands. 2 years ago was the first year. Last year, we took a look, and I mentioned to the organizers, and said, hey, this will be a good time to do a demonstration project with bike lanes. So I reached out to Lisa Lee, who was doing some work in the Broadwalk at the same time. And she says, hey, we can help you with that. And I'm going to segue right over to Lisa now, so she can tell you all about what we did with Porch Fest. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And here you go, Lisa. Thank you. Great.
Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Wait, let me make this full. Okay, sorry. I just have myself on my laptop. Okay, so quick build demonstration projects from advocacy to action and lessons learned. So here's a couple of photos from different projects, and Nancy had just talked about Porch Fest. So this picture here right in the center under the title is actually a picture from us working with some of the resident volunteers that Nancy was wonderful enough to recruit, and where we are laying down stencils and spray painting. The one to the left of that with the sun that actually looks very familiar. I mean, very similar to the one that Nancy showed. is in Passaic. We did that last year. And then the one above that is a photo of myself and some kids riding in one of the bike lanes that we painted in the town of West Orange. So how can you develop a project? Well, first of all, I think it's important, you know, start with your goal, right? So a lot of communities, counties have already adopted complete streets resolutions, policies, or ordinances, but you know, a few years back, I think a lot of us realized in the safety advocacy community that we weren't seeing a lot of it, you know, implemented. So I know for us at Easy Ride, it's wonderful to pass a policy. It's wonderful to do road safety audits and to write, you know, like 100-page travel plan report that communities can use to apply for grants. But we really wanted to see things made safer faster, right? We are all aware of the unfortunate stories in the news where we hear that cyclists and pedestrians are getting hit. And we may know in our communities that these roadways, you know, are not as safe as they could be. And sometimes it can be very frustrating, right? Not only for the residents, the advocates, but also, you know, for those of us who are working in your regional TMAs, or even maybe at the state level. We want to see improvements made quickly. And demonstration projects are a great way to do that, because you can get out there and do something, get the input, people see it, and then ideally, you know, people will like it so much that they can make it permanent. So that's really what the whole purpose in terms of why we do this, right? Because we do write all of those reports. We do a lot of those audits, and we want to see changes made so that people can be safer. So first up, I recommend, you know, work with a group. Don't try to be a lone ranger. There are many different safety coalitions, whether that's on a regional basis, or maybe your town may be lucky enough to have one. Maybe you're involved with it. If not, start one, right? You got to start somewhere, and it's definitely good to not be a lone ranger and to have like a whole bunch of people to help you. Or you can reach out, you know, reach out to your green team, reach out to your police. They are advocates for safety. Schools, a lot of the schools we work with, they're aware, you know, of how safe or unsafe it may or may not be for the students, you know, to walk or bike to school. And the more that we can make the infrastructure safer, the more willing they are going to be to allow students also to do that. We are here as your partners. There's 8 TMAs in the state. We cover all of the different counties in New Jersey. So right away, you know, even if you don't have the coalition or a green team, even if you're, you know, aren't necessarily working or done much with your police yet or your schools, you can reach out to your TMA, and we may have those relationships to assist you. And, you know, one thing that you just heard Nancy say that I thought was a really good point is to partner your demonstration project with another community event to help with promotion, right? So she talked about how we did the pop-up bike lanes and sharrows right before Porch Fest to allow people to bicycle from porch to porch, which is really fun. This was my first time being at a Porch Fest. Here's another, the picture on the right is actually, I think, the Environmental Commission team from West Orange. We partnered that bike lane installation with bike safety talks and rodeos and bike classes, so that, you know, we could minimally at least get the people that came to the classes to participate, as well as, you know, promoting it to the town. And then here's a picture of some folks from Belleville. And I'm not going to say too much about that because I don't know if Peter is going to. So, but this is a group of teachers. You see me there on the right. I'm standing in a funny way, but you've got like the superintendent. I think we've got some of the green team members, some staff parents, and community members. So also, I think it's important, you know, to plan ahead and work backwards. So you know what your goals are, right? And you know you want to have this event. So this list that I have is going down. So you have your event, you know, you've got to get your materials and supplies before it. You know, you've got to arrange for the painting and installation. Actually, that probably should be swapped. You need to maybe talk with the municipality, get somebody to help close the streets or block the streets so you don't get run over while you're out there painting. Maybe you might even need to get their approval of the municipality, or if it's a county road, or if it's a state road, you've got to work with each road owner. So I found that a lot of advocates don't necessarily know this. The roads belong to someone. It could be a municipal street, it could be a county roadway, could be a state roadway. Many times the state or the county have arranged with an MOU for the municipality to maintain it, but still you're probably going to need to talk to both of them to get approvals. And then in terms of picking a place and working on your design, don't work again like in a silo. Get input from your local police. They can actually tell you where the most crashes have occurred. And I think that's an important thing, is to choose a place where you know people are at risk, or if they already have been hit, or if there's even been a fatality. You definitely want to make that place safer, right? So get that input from them. The TMAs can also look at crash data, but I think once the municipality and the police, you know, approve the site, you're going to have their support, you know, to close the road. So I think that's always the thing, is to think about how can you get their support. And then make a plan to collect feedback, right? Whether it's a survey, and I think somebody, and Nancy mentioned QR codes, we do that too. Or if it's in person, you know, at the event, you can actually talk to people, they'll see your new project. You can put up like a big poster board and collect people's input there, or you can just ask them very simple questions. And then your goal is, if it's positive, make it permanent. So this is just a simple design made with street mix. And this is something that, you know, honestly, anybody could do. All you need to know is the measurements of the road, and then you can use this software to kind of plan about how you're going to squeeze in or fit in a bike lane. What would need to be changed? In our case, we always try to like work in the easiest way possible. We try to find a roadway that is municipally owned, because that's going to be a lot easier than to get county and state support. And we try to look for roads that are wide enough that we can do whatever it is that we want to do. I got to go faster. I only got 8 minutes. All right. So try to get the community involved, right? In West Orange, Mike Dannemiller's here. He's a local resident and an engineer. He helped with the measurements. That's fantastic to have someone that's experienced that can do that. You can get your school staff involved and students to help paint. That's what happened in Belleville, and in Red Bank. You know, we saw a lot of resident volunteers get involved as well to help paint. You need many hands to do much work. And also it makes it a lot more fun to have people involved. It just gives you that sense of, you know, togetherness. You're working on a project, and you want that support later on from the community, because they're going to be the ones, other residents, not just, you know, 1 or 2 people. You're going to need their help to talk with the powers that be, the municipality, to try to get it to be made permanent. Promote, promote, promote. And remember, know your audience. So here, you know, there's a flyer here in English in West Orange. In Passaic, which is a very heavily Spanish-speaking community, we made sure that all of our communication pieces were bilingual into languages. You may need 3. Know your community. And, you know, we went door to door. This was some of the resident volunteers of the Safety Coalition in West Orange. They went around and knocked on the doors to make sure people knew what was going to happen. We made sure that the local police put up signs so that people would know that there was going to be a change in the traffic patterns, so that people weren't surprised. You want that to come up, you know, maybe 2 weeks in advance, at least a week in advance, so people aren't surprised. The last thing you want is for the road to change and someone to drive around the corner and, you know, hit someone. So give a lot of promotion and warning. We got the messages out on the town and the school websites. We had the school send the information home to students. Social media was used. They put out a press release in the town, and also make sure that you arrange for photography pre and post installation, because you want to be able to show the changes, especially if it's going to be temporary paint that's going to dissolve and run away the first time it rains.
And Lisa, just to say, John Boyle added the link to the street mix in the chat. So if the
Okay,
open
great.
platform Lisa referred to and used is in the chat.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, John and Paul. So again, this was Mike. Mike blew up our poster into a huge poster, put it in his front yard. He also recruited some of the wonderful people here that are listening. I saw Laura Torchio's here, and I don't know if Elise is here, but recruited some people from DOT to come and also ride, and had a little bike train from his house on that pop-up bike lane. And like I said, I mentioned this before, the electric sign. And really very, very important, right, to make impact is to register and get input from community participants. So, you can see this left bottom picture. We had classes. We made sure that the parents and the students, gave us their feedback on that pop-up bike lane. At Passaic here, we set up a tent. We had a banner. We learned from some of our wonderful consultant friends and got people to give us their feedback on little sticky notes. It helped a lot too. We actually had another agency, New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. They came out and not only helped us paint, but they also helped us survey people because they were developing a bike and ped plan for Passaic. So they actually had a different survey. We had one survey. And here, this is in Red Bank. The Porch Fest organizer gave us a place. We were able to sit there and have lunch. And also I recruited some of the young high school students to help us actually try to get input and get people to register and give us feedback. And then there's just a picture of two of our volunteers in West Orange by the bike lane. But get people involved, very, very important. And then this is just some samples of the questions. I'm not going to spend much time on this. We asked about how satisfied people were with the pop-up bike lane, and people were pretty happy. There were a few people that didn't think the bike lane was wide enough, but in general, everybody liked it. People thought that yes, it definitely improved safety. You want these kinds of questions so that you can show them to your city council members and the DPW and the police. We asked, where else could this kind of project help? So they gave us input on other roadways that could be useful to do the projects or intersections, whatever it is. And should it be permanent? 100% of people said yes. Not only that, but we also collected comments. So I think those comments tell a great story, and you can use those when you are talking to city council, or for example, when Nancy is going to be talking to her. She is a counselor, but she's still got to get support from all of the other counselors. And then finally, lessons learned. So like I said, work with us. We may have relationships with the county and your municipality already. Build a positive relationship. Oh, I can't say this enough. And I've told some of the advocates that like this, when they talked to me and told me of their troubles, that the municipality wouldn't listen to them, blah, blah, blah. The key is don't complain. Don't give out negative press releases and bash your own public officials. That's pretty much, they're never going to work with you, right? So you gotta catch more flies with honey. Show them that you are willing to volunteer to work on efforts and to be supportive, and start small, right? You've got to show them that you are serious and build their trust before you can go bigger. Promote, promote, promote. Plan for contingencies. That could be the weather. You need a rain date. You need to plan for supplies. So we borrowed supplies from the NJTPA's wonderful library for our Passaic project. And then when it came to Nancy's project in Red Bank, lo and behold, unfortunately, they hadn't reordered. They were really short. So thankfully, I checked early enough that we had time. I bought some paint myself. We figured out that we could use those chalk liners on fields, for soccer and sporting events. We use that in Red Bank to make our bike lanes. And I reached out because I realized once we picked up the supplies, they didn't have like they had sharrows, but they didn't have any bike lane stencils. So luckily I knew Monmouth County. I called up Monmouth County and they let us borrow a bike lane stencil from them so that we were able to fulfill that project.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And
Thank you.
that library, lending library is a great segue to Peter Bilton and NJTPA. Peter, I know we're running lower on time, but we still have a couple more presentations to go, so go for it.
All right, let me just switch my screen and I'll skip through a few here. I just want to tell you about the NJTPA's programs that relate to demonstration projects and a little bit about our experience there. You guys have heard everyone's heard so much already. These great examples. I mean, it's a wealth of information. You know, Lisa, you're a rock star. Like that's almost everything that anyone would need to know. You just covered in the last 10 minutes. So I'm not going to have a lot to add on lessons learned from there. But the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority is a metropolitan planning organization. And then later you're going to hear from Cassidey from the Delaware Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization. So for those who don't know, our organizations help to program federal funds, working with the state DOTs and other agencies. But we also sponsor a lot of planning studies and provide technical support and a forum for collaboration between counties, municipalities, and the state level agencies. And I want to tell you about our demonstration library. You've heard about it a bit first. That's been used for projects like bike lanes and sidewalk extensions and parklets. Just a couple of examples of where this has been used and the type of projects. Most recently, we've been taking advantage of this library, which is materials that we've purchased in partnership with New Jersey's Transportation Management Associations, working closely with the Hudson County TMA, Hudson TMA, to loan out materials that can be used to create a temporary demonstration. This example in West Orange, we worked during a consultant-supported study, creating a plan for Essex County. And as part of that, a few pop-up demonstrations were done to get engagement from people. Lisa was just talking about the importance of surveys and feedback, of hearing from residents about what they want, and as opposed to kind of continuing on with the status quo. And this is one tool that we've been using in partnership with the consultants and counties and municipalities that we work with to help get more engagement. So these were painted curb extensions. And we had the advantage here of, because it was embedded within a larger study, we had the consultants, I believe some of whom may be on the call today, to kind of help design and shepherd this through. And you may not have that when you're starting your demonstration. You've already heard that building those partnerships with, if you're not the municipal officials themselves, building partnerships with your municipal officials and with other agencies, that the folks who own the road, is essential to both getting permission and getting to install a project like this, and getting approval of the designs which is needed in order to get permission. This is another bikeway example that was also done as part of a larger transportation study. It was like the capstone for a study in the small town of Keyport. There's trying to remember the name, the Henry Hudson Trail crosses Maple Place kind of diagonally, and there was no good, and that's a multi-use trail. There was no designated way to get across. And so all the partners in Keyport worked together to help design, along with the county and the consultant working on this project and the NJTPA, to design what a two-way bikeway could look like across. And the materials temporary materials were used to test it out and get a lot of feedback from community members about what it was like to make that bikeway connection. So these are the types of materials that we lend out, both kind of traffic control devices that can be put up temporarily, bollards and flex posts and stencils. Also materials that get consumed, like paint. Lisa said we were noted we ran out of paint. We've recently ordered more, and newer federal guidance provides a bit more flexibility. I think it's still in the works and still to be determined where that flexibility lies. But the newest federal guidance provides more flexibility for using paint on the pavement, provided that is not as part of an official traffic control device. So it's not a road stripe. If it's there for decoration and it doesn't conflict with the striping on the road, then other colors can be used than like the white and yellow. So those are some of the consumable materials, and also things for parklets, as Nancy was discussing from Red Bank, park spaces, and Jason was talking about as well, benches, and I guess it's not, I call it astroturf. That's probably artificial turf mats. That's probably copyrighted. So the process for working with us is relatively, I think, the easy part. The hard part is all the stuff that Lisa was just talking about, identifying your goals and partners, building those relationships, and collecting examples from other towns that have done it. I always say the closer it is, the better. The more similar it is to your town that you can provide an example, the better. I don't know how many times I've heard, well, we don't do it that way here, so if you can get a town, in your county, a similar type of density and land use and population, similar type of roads, that provides the greatest proof that it can be done in your town as well. For working with the library, there's an application process. It's not too onerous. You say when you want to do it, who's going to be involved, what you want to do, and how it's going to be approved by the folks who own and operate the road, and check off the materials that you're seeking for, and then we'll work with you to make sure that those materials are available at the time that you need them. No, we do definitely encourage community outreach. We want people to use these demonstrations as a way for folks to learn about the opportunity, to learn about the possibilities that are available for making the roads safer and more inviting for pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users. And that also to evaluate the impact of the project. So if you use our library, we want to see the photos afterwards. We want to see the press, so we can kind of keep a track on the impact that it's having.
Peter, thank you. And I heard you need to increase your stockpile of library materials. I think you're going to have to increase that after this.
Although really, I mean, that's not, the library is a great program, but that's like, in terms of the things that would prevent you from implementing one of these projects, that's really low on the list. The materials are not that expensive. I want to make a note also, sorry to Cassidey, that we're right nearing the end of the application period for our Complete Streets Technical Assistance Program. Councilwoman Blackwood talked about this when Red Bank worked with us a few years ago. We're doing another round. One of the types of projects that the Voorhees Transportation Center at Rutgers and Sustainable Jersey can support in a town is a demonstration, and this is an example of one that was done in Belleville with the help of Easy Ride, TMA, and Lisa. So that application is open right now, but it's due on February 2nd, and that program is open to municipalities to apply for. It's free short-term technical assistance.
And just a plug on that, it's a much easier application than some of these other big grant applications. It's a lot easier for them to pull off.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you. I hope I'm not cutting you too short here, but I do want to bring on Cassidey. Cassidey, thank you. Sorry for squeezing you on time here, but if you would like to share your screen, please. There you go. Great.
Okay. Last but not least, I'm Cassidey Boulan. I'm the Associate Manager of DVRPC's Office of Transit Bicycle and Pedestrian Planning, and I co-manage our Expo program, which is DVRPC's Tactical Urbanism program. I think as our projects have evolved, they've skewed a little bit more from demo or like one day to something that's a little bit longer. Maybe more in the quick build category. So I'll show some examples of that. At this point, we've done projects across our region. So definitely have some good examples in New Jersey, but also some in Pennsylvania as well. This is touched on a little bit. I think as we think about our council folks and what a good project is, the right project, something that comes from a planning process or already had a public process is a good start. I think that helps to justify a project, but also the public's already had a chance to weigh in. This second bullet is maybe a little bit different from the point that a couple of other folks have made, which is these do take a lot of work. So I think having something that is worthwhile, is worth all that labor. For instance, we've had folks come to us and say, we want to do a share project, and we say, just do it. That doesn't need to be a demonstration, that can just be implemented. So I think thinking about, what is maybe a reach project, and kind of gets the last one that's ambitious, but not too much. So kind of finding that right place for your community. So a few examples to illustrate what we've done and what DVRPC support can look like. This is a relatively early on project in Narberth, Pennsylvania. They had done a lot of planning around bike work, and folks were really saying, okay, we've talked enough about this. Let's actually see what it might look like. So we worked with them to do a 2.5-week pilot, which you can see the materials here are indicative of that time frame. When we do a full sort of soup to nuts expo project, that includes us providing design support. So here's an implementation document from that project. And all of our projects also do data collection. So we have traffic counting folks as part of our staff. So we've gathered a lot of good before and after data that can show the effectiveness of projects. Another example in Collingswood, this stemmed from their 2020 bike and ped project, and really looked for some near-term implementation on some of the corridors that were identified as part of that project. We found that for a lot of our projects that, as other folks touched on, the placemaking aspect can be a good way to involve other stakeholders. Here we worked with the Perkins Art Center and did some nice bump out murals that really, makes it more than just a transportation project. Our most recent and ongoing project that is our first opportunity to iterate is in East Trenton. So this will be a 2-year project. Most of ours are just sort of a one-off or a 1-year project. And this is a good example of something that we did that stemmed from grassroots local support. So this neighborhood did their own traffic safety audit. And then we were able to leverage their relationships with the city and ours to make this an expo project, a quick build project. Again, for our process, it's, to echo many other points, it's really a working process where we meet weekly with everyone involved. The rules are relatively standardized with maybe, some variation depending on different folks' ability. But really the municipality has to be very much bought in. And I think that process of them being on board, you know, if they're not the ones initiating, really comes from residents and advocates. Many of our projects have worked with TMAs. We've talked a lot about their ability to support today, but not all of ours do. So, you know, that is something that can be optional or value add if necessary and if a good fit. And so this is kind of a unique process for us in that there is no formal application. Usually these projects just start as a conversation. But when folks come to us, either, you know, we want them to already have a location partner, some idea of funding, or that's kind of the homework we'll send them away with, is to start really fleshing those out. But for us to really take on something like this, the municipal support or the road owner support is really key. So, you know, it's hard to push something along if the municipality isn't bought in. So that's, yes, just critical to get started. For our current pipeline, you know, something starting in fall 2024 is what we're looking at. So if after this call, anyone is in our region wants to reach out to me, we're happy to set up an initial call. But keep in mind that fall 2024 date. And in terms of what we've seen from our other projects, a budget of $5,000 to $15,000 is really, you know, in the comfortable range for these. That doesn't include labor in most cases. So most of ours have been implemented by public works departments with some support by volunteers. But this is a relatively low price point for, you know, most municipalities, and DVRPC does have some budget to bring to these projects too. We've also seen lead times, you know, depending on the scale and how long they're going to be in place, vary. That Narberth project was our quickest. And some of our others have taken much more time, but those are more likely to be in place permanently rather than just a demonstration. Echoing what Lisa said, the promotion and outreach is key. I think also prepping municipalities and elected officials and staff that there will be people who hate it. It seems pretty inevitable. But usually we've seen that the vast majority of folks are on board, but you will have some of those naysayers. And then liability comes up with municipalities. I think it really depends. We've done different processes depending on how comfortable different folks are with risk. And that's something that we can kind of coach people on, or, you know, find the right place to alleviate any of that anxiety. So we have a bunch of stuff on our website. Also feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. We've also found, as we develop a network of communities that have done these projects, that they can information share between them. So questions about what kind of paint should I use, or different things like that. We're always happy to connect people and try to help projects be successful no matter where they are.
Cassidey, thank you so much.
I tried to zoom through that.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry you got the short end of
It's
the stick
okay.
here. But you know what? Because of that, I want to give you a little extra plug here. So this is coming up soon if people are interested in this e-micromobility summit. And I do want to get right to questions because we're a little over time here. So if people have to jump, I understand. But one of the questions that came up in the chat, and I've heard often, is what do you do about deliveries? And I'm sure you want the support of businesses. Are there some good workarounds for still allowing businesses to get their deliveries? Trash removal is another one. Anybody from the panel want to just jump on that?
Sure, I'll jump in. In Red Bank, what we had with our Broadwalk committee is that they did discuss about how to handle deliveries. And what was created was a separate zone on one of the on two of the side streets. One is Upper Broadwalk and then on Mechanic Street, where the businesses could get their deliveries during the day. So that's how we did our workaround. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. there were a lot of great resources, and I saw a lot of questions in the chat with answers in the chat because it's a very knowledgeable crew. So thank you for that. People adding different links to things. So if you are not looking at the chat, I recommend you do go through the chat, click on all the links, open them up in browsers, file them, save them, at least look at them. And you don't have to look at them now, but save them because there are a lot of great resources. I know we're a little over. Any Johan, Emmanuel, any questions? If anyone wants to raise their hand with a question before we
I was
close
gonna
things
say
out
something
today.
too. I'm not sure if Nancy just said this, but you were talking about garbage. Put up signs all along the street so people know, that it's happening. So the residents there know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, the interest in this is great. And I saw some people saying, wow, it's inspiring just to see so many communities doing these kinds of things. So we just need more of it. And I appreciate the panel coming on. Run. Yes, so congratulations, Jason and Nancy, for stepping up in your local municipalities and taking that on. That's not a job I would want based on what I see at town council, but it is a great service to the community. So thank you for doing that. Thanks for joining us today. Lisa, Cassidey, Peter, thank you for joining. And I hope you will tune in future webinars and give us, email us. Please feel free to email us questions. We could follow up. I'm happy to follow up with you. I have a lot of resources on our website, and we're looking to find more topics that are really attractive to you. So keep your eye out for February's plan. And again, thank you. Any last minute comments? Emmanuel, you want to add anything? Johan? Some of the great things happening in Hudson County?
Great things happening statewide.
Statewide.
Very inspired. I would love to see some of those daisies, painted street daisies in our county.
Yeah, I
it's
guess
great to
I'll
see this
say
happening everywhere.
on the daisies, that was our cheap way to do art. Art's expensive and we want to compensate artists, but that was a cheaper way to do it.
And going back to Jason's example in the beginning, how they started with like simple stand-up plastic bollards, and then they got the big, heavy, solid, planters and things like that. So it takes time. It takes a lot of patience and perseverance. So thank you all again. If you want to hang on, have any last-minute questions, feel free. But I just want to thank the panel. I know everyone's busy and's got to go.
And I hope to see everyone at the summit in May.
Yes, thank you, Emmanuel. So it has been, the date is there, May 18th, Saturday, Middlesex County College. We will be there, and it's a lot of great in-person presentations. If you haven't been to the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition Summit in the past, it's a must-see, and it's in person. The last in-person summit was in 2020, sorry. It just got in, and like everything shut down with COVID right after that. And then we've had some online, but we'll be back in person. So I hope you could join us for that. And again, thank you all for joining us.